Hey everyone, welcome to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sam Popple, and this is my co-host, Will. How's it going, Will?
Man, every day's good. Every day's good. Super excited for our guest today.
Yeah. So today we're going to have on a gentleman by the name of Caleb Drake. So I'm super excited about this one. Caleb is active duty military, so I'm so thankful that we have a guy like him, serving our country. On top of that, he has three businesses in real estate: a fix and flipping business, a property management where he manages short-term rentals, as well as being an active real estate agent. And just hearing that he's accomplished all that while being active duty is just extremely impressive. And I'm excited to learn about some time management skills today. What about you, Will?
I'm actually really interested to hear kind of his story building through that. Not 100%. Only time skills, but like kind of I think it's really awesome. Sam, but my dad flew, my grandfather flew, my great grandfather flew, but that's all they did. So just kind of hearing his story, and then same thing, being able to build multiple businesses, multiple streams of income after something that's extremely stressful. I saw the stress it had on my dad. You're dealing with people's lives. You're dealing with your own life every time you get in the cockpit. So not only super thankful to have Caleb on here and serving our country, but just being able to, get out of that mindset and then run, multiple businesses, I think is so cool. So not only the time management, but just like the scope of work and how he can get in and out of, two drastically different types of industries. So I think it's going to be
100%
really
agree.
Yeah.
Well, let's bring him on. Hey, Caleb, welcome to the show.
Yeah. Hey guys, how are you?
Hey, we're just excited to have you on. So we appreciate you being one of our first guests to agree to come on. We've only done a couple interviews so far, and like I kind of told you backstage that we know in a few years with the way you're scaling, we're going to be very fortunate to be able to say that you've come on our podcast. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. It's these are always fun to do.
Yeah, man. So kind of as I was teeing up, like tell us a little bit about life before real estate, like your childhood, college, like what got you interested into flying, or just the military in general. And then, how did that all culminate to get you to start opening up businesses, or a business to then, multiple businesses while still being able to manage your time while flying? I mean, that's incredible.
Gave you a lot.
So I'd say joining the military was kind of a necessity. My probation officer said I had to.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
Yeah. We love stories like this.
But like really though, I kind of grew up not really a troublesome household or anything like that, but single mom, working 3 jobs. I was a troublemaker, kind of a smart kid that was always bored, right? Getting in trouble, hanging out with the wrong crowd. Around like 2005, had a couple of like life events happen, and then I decided that when I graduated high school, I needed to join the military. So I joined originally from Indiana, Terre Haute, Indiana, if anybody knows where it's at. And then after I joined the military in 2006, like 9 days after I graduated high school, I went to obviously to basic training and all of that, and then I got stationed in Las Vegas, England. I got to kind of move around a little bit, and then moved back to Indiana in like 2012. And that was when I started. I did a program where they dropped my enlistment early, and they allowed me to go back to college to potentially get a flying slot in the Air Force. And so I did that for 2 years, and that was kind of the first kind of not really exposure to real estate. But when I was in my hometown, it was like I couldn't really find a good rental to live in. And so it'll kind of come up later on in the podcast, but we ended up starting to invest in kind of build a fix and flip and a rental business in my hometown, so that we could provide decent rentals. Cause like we just couldn't find anything when we were going to college, my son's mom and I. So it was a unique situation, right? That we had family there. So we figured it out, but I just kind of saw that there was a void there. And so later on, down the road, that was why we started investing there particularly. But to continue on, I got stationed down in Pensacola, NAS Pensacola, as a combat systems officer student. And that's for guys that have seen like Top Gun, it's not nearly as cool as it looks, but it's the backseat guy, right? The Goose. It's the that's how you kind of say it's like Goose, but hopefully I don't have to eject into the canopy. And we got different the same wings with different positions. So I flew special operations reconnaissance out of Hurlburt Field for like 8 years, and then pushed back over to NAS Pensacola as a flight instructor now. But in the middle of all of that, like 2017 was really when I got I've heard my first exposure to real estate. I bought my house in 2016. I house hacked it. I had a roommate, long-term rental roommate. I didn't know what the term was, right? I was just trying to find somebody to help me pay my mortgage. So I wasn't really like a big real estate investor, house hacker. I wasn't following anybody on the internet. It was just like, I don't want to pay my own mortgage. I've got 2 extra bedrooms. I'm a single guy living in Pensacola. Right?
Like, you were house hacking.
Yeah. So I rented that out, but then I came home from a deployment. I was deploying like every 6 months for about 3 months at a time. And I came home from I think it was my first or second deployment. And my roommate had moved in, like her boyfriend, her daughter who hadn't lived there, like, and so I came home and it was like this family living in my house, and they had moved all of this stuff out of one of the bedrooms into my bedroom. And I was like, I felt like I wasn't really like, living in my own property. Right. And so, long story short, I learned a lot about lease agreements at that point in my life, booted them out. And, then my house was vacant while I was deployed. And so I was like, well, let me create a Airbnb out of this property. And so we took and just created some like minor systems. I really didn't have anything to like automations or anything. And I started renting my place out. This was like 2017, 18. So like the golden years of Airbnb, when you could just throw any house up on the internet and it would rent. But I managed it from, I think I managed it from Afghanistan, Iraq, and Africa at that point, just while I was deployed. And
Wow.
I kind of took that money, went into a partnership with a buddy of mine, and that's when we started scaling.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. How
Yeah.
how did that tee you guys up to start scaling as you ended there?
Yeah, so my first partnership came out of necessity. A good friend of mine, he had kind of talked about having some extra cash, wanted to get into real estate. I thought I knew what I was doing in real estate because I owned one house that I rented out, right? Yeah, but lessons learned. But we got lucky in a sense. We bought the property like right. I say it's funny to say got lucky, but we bought the property right before COVID, and it was a short-term rental. And so once we bought it, we purchased it. COVID hit, and like vacations just went through the roof. And so we were just booked all the time down here in the Florida Panhandle. The property's in Navarre, and it was kind of a newer beach. It's not a newer beach town, but it was kind of like an up and coming area for like vacationers. It's in between Pensacola Beach and Destin, and so we had a lot of guests that came through, and so we just kind of managed them ourselves. We took the money from that, and then started buying long-term rentals because we were worried about what COVID was going to do for the travel industry, but it ended up working out for us.
That's
Well,
awesome.
hey, I think Navarre's catchphrase is Florida's best kept secret. So, which sounds like we're letting the secret out of the bag a little bit here on the show. It's definitely one of the best beaches that still hasn't quite been fully discovered. I will say.
Yeah, I think Navarre Beach and Perdido Key are going to probably be your next two that you're going to see kind of explode over the next 10 years.
No,
Yeah.
definitely agree. So when you entered that partnership with your friend, you said, was that more for to help you kind of manage it, to have someone on the ground here while you were overseas, or was that more of for the financial side of the partnership?
Yeah, it was more for the financial side. Josh and I both had enough money just to like maybe get into something with someone else, and so we just partnered up. Looking back, I got lucky that, I trusted Josh, and he's a good friend of mine, and still to this day he is. But, we didn't really have a good operating agreement. We didn't have any of that. And so I think over time you kind of learn the lessons, sometimes the hard way, sometimes just from education. But we've, since then we've kind of adjusted what we've done, and we own a few properties together still. We're not scaling as much now together. He's super busy with the military. He's a special operations guy himself out in North Carolina. So he's gone, I'm gone a lot. I'm running the other two businesses. And so it's just we're not doing as much together anymore, but we still have like 4 or 5 properties together.
Awesome.
Nice.
Who was the probably one of the people that kind of got you first interested? I know you mentioned that you saw the necessity up in Indiana, but was there anyone that kind of like made you like start looking at real estate more formally as the investment opportunity?
Not really, honestly. I did have I have an uncle that did fairly well in life and did pretty good with rental properties, and so I kind of always seen that he was more of the financially savvy guy in my my like circle growing up, right? My very very blue collar. My grandfather was in the government. He was like the county commissioner, the fire chief. My mom was single mom working 3 jobs, and my grandma owned a business. My grandparents kind of helped raise me, but they owned. My grandma was a hairdresser, and so they owned a shop where we actually growing up. I lived on the right side of it, and my grandma's shop was on the left side of the duplex. And so it's kind of cool. Like I got to, it's like my grandma was house hacking as well.
Yeah.
We didn't really know it. And they still do. They actually built a duplex, and they live on one side, and then they rent out the other side. So
Good for them. I love it.
yeah, but they don't even realize that they're real estate investors. My grandpa's always like, oh, you're gonna lose your butt in real estate, and he's just kind of like very conservative about money. And so I bought a triplex across the street from him, and he cuts the grass out of it for me. So
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
yeah, it just went full circle, right?
Totally.
Right.
It was
But
implanted
yeah.
into you, really. You didn't even know.
Yeah, he's been house hacking for 22 years, and is still telling me that real estate investing is risky. And I'm like, you're doing it. You're doing it the easiest way possible, but you're doing it. So,
Yeah. Hey, some people do it small for just the personal property, and some people go big, like what we see you trying to do.
yeah, hopefully.
No, man, you're killing it. And that kind of transitions us like, what is life today? Career, investments, what real estate looks like for you guys, and your business and where it's going.
Yeah, so I got like 3.5 years left on active duty before I retire. So I'll retire around like 40 years old.
Nice.
By then, my goal is to have about $12,000 to $15,000 in passive income, and that's going to be through. I've got a couple of different ways to do that, and then the active income is completely scalable to wherever we want to put it, right? But the passive, I kind of want to be around that point.
Monthly passive income, correct?
Yeah, did I say yearly?
Yeah.
Yeah, 12,000 monthly.
Yeah.
So yeah, 12,000 yearly. That'd be way too easy.
Mhm.
But so I'm still, like I said, I'm still a flight instructor. I pin on major next month, and so that'll be kind of where I retire, just with my prior enlisted time, and then the realtor business. So I got my realtor's license in 2021, right when the market was just exploding, right? Branded myself as kind of an investor realtor. I knew investments. I knew this market down here. I'd owned a few properties, and I created this kind of system of like, I found the contractors. We would find an out-of-state, flipper that wanted something. I would help them create their team down here, manage a little bit of the flip for them, and then sell it back on the back end, right, for a little bit of a premium, extra percentage, or we would take a property management fee. It was great when you're a brand new realtor and you've got 4 or 5 clients that you're working. You got this consistent deal flow. But as you continue to scale, that model it's hard to manage, especially when you're still working a full time, 9 to 5. Like my realtor job or my military job is honestly more of like a 6 to 3, 6 to 2 kind of a position, and I'm pretty flexible in a lot of ways. I kind of run my own schedule in that. I'm lucky, I'm fortunate to have that. A lot of guys in the military don't. So if I'm not flying, I'm not really just sitting around in the office, biding time, punching a clock. But that was a hard model to really manage, and so I had to bring on a couple of other guys, and so that's when I kind of started building a team of realtors, kind of out of necessity. So I brought in a couple of newer guys and a couple of guys that just wanted to do deals here and there. And the first one that I brought onto the team was a buddy of mine named Chip, and Chip and I are like complete opposites, man. He's a fishing charter, yoga instructor. I'm like, I want to scale to the top of Mount Everest, and he's like, dude, let's just relax, right? But it works out because as I'm like, climbing and trying to like scale and go crazy, he's like was able to kind of bring me back sometimes, or like help in a way of like he wasn't trying to do that as well, so I could rely on him to do any of the little things, right? Like he was always available. He's still one of my rocks, man. He's a great guy, but so Chip and I kind of built that, and then we started scaling the team a little bit, and we had it up to like 12 agents. And then I realized that like I couldn't manage a full team of agents, and I couldn't manage being in the military and the other two businesses, right? And so it got smaller. The circle got smaller. We got like 7 guys now that are just crushing in real estate, and but it's awesome. That business I do 35 to 45 deals a year. It's kind of my average. 20 deals my first 9 months, and then like 45 my second, 36 last year, and I'm on pace to probably do like 35 this year. So I think we've closed 22 already.
Nice.
So that's
what brokerage did you hang your license with?
so originally I was with a small broker, just a local broker out of Fort Walton Beach. My realtor, I bought a piece of land and built my dream home like in 2020, 2021 timeframe, and my realtor on that was like, Caleb, like, you know so much about real estate, like you should get your real estate license. And at that point, I had owned my first house I told you guys was an Airbnb. Actually, I found out that the realtor that sold it to me knew it had flood issues, and then it flooded in Hurricane Sally. And so at that point, I was kind of like, you know what, I need to get my license so that doesn't happen to any of my friends. And I'll just sell their houses, I'll buy my own investment properties. But then I saw really the way that you can scale a realtor business and make it profitable to a point like it's a lot of profit, and able to scale it. Really, time is kind of your only your limiting factor in being a realtor.
I think this is really interesting and something that a lot of the listeners would like maybe a little more detail on, because we have a lot of new realtors, a lot of different types of listeners, people who are interested mostly in fix and flips and things like that. So would you recommend becoming a realtor early on in your investing career? And as you're talking about profitability and scalability, being, having your own brokerage or team, kind of walk us through that explanation that you're just starting.
As far as like being a realtor, just to buy your own deals, I wouldn't, because you've got to really niche down in what you want, right? And kind of get into that 80-20 principle. And if you're working on, as a realtor, you're working on keeping up your, all of your credentials, all of your training, you have to have, a certain amount of hours, it's in the like 40 some hours to be a realtor down in Florida. You have to have like 12 hours of annual training, which doesn't seem like a lot, but there's a lot of ethics and stuff that you have to really know. And you can get yourself in a little bit of trouble if you don't. So I wouldn't really recommend it as a like, oh, I'm just going to buy my own deals. Like, just find a good realtor that adds value to your business, and then just use them and treat them right. And then it's really not something that I would say would be advantageous unless you're you're doing something at scale.
Fair enough. No, I love to hear that, because that's kind of, again, talking about scalability, having the right people on your team, being able to start off and have a good realtor will allow you to kind of allocate time to maybe the deal itself or things like that. But something I did like that you said, which is interesting, is how you said there's a lot of profit built into being a realtor and having your own team. So do you think that kind of propelled your success in real estate, is actually being a realtor?
Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't be anywhere where I am right now. I mean, all of the active income that we were, making, or I was making as a realtor, like dumping that back into the other businesses and buying rentals was it was pivotal, right? I'd probably own half of what I own now, maybe less, if I didn't have the the hundred and some $1,000s a year that I'm making as a realtor.
Right.
So I mean, we have had some lifestyle creep, right? Like we built a house on the water, our mortgage doubled, but like we're happy. We're still investing, 30 to 45% of our income every year.
Awesome.
And so so we've got I say we, like my wife and I, we've got a good lifestyle that we're happy with.
That's amazing. That's awesome. No, I think that's really cool, because one of our previous episodes, we had a full-time realtor that does extremely well, and she was kind of talking about the lifestyle, all the things that go into it. It's not just the glitz and glamour of being a realtor. Like you're having to chase business, get new clients, really be available 24/7 to your clients and things like that. And this was a realtor specifically in Colorado. But it's really cool, having both sides of the coin where you're running multiple businesses, able to still scale that business, and then really have the right people in place, which I know Sam started it. We're really excited to kind of hear how you manage your time and how you put things together, which the listeners are going to be really excited to, have some, we always call them the highlights, the golden highlights. So I know you're going to have so many that I already have my notebook out. So
yeah, like fire away, fire any questions you got. I would say the first thing, if you're trying to run multiple businesses or you're just trying to run a business while having like a demanding W-2, is the first thing is like live by your calendar, die by your calendar. Plan everything that you do. I have every Saturday and Sunday, I'm up at like 6. I work from 6 to 11 on the business to try to, one, either get caught up on things that haven't, that have fallen off during the week. But also to like work on some of the systems to grow and to scale and to automate. And those are like my times. Saturday mornings, I meet with one of my business partners, like 9 in the morning. We meet from like 9 to 10:30. But the rest of that time is like me just plugging away on a computer. We built a detached office off the backside of our house so that there's no distractions in the house. That was more out of necessity because the office became a nursery like 7 weeks ago. But
congrats.
Yeah,
awesome.
So
Congratulations.
Another thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we built the room I'm in. You can kind of see the walls are pretty close. It's a 8x12 office off the back. We've got a window, sliding glass door, so it feels nice. It's quiet. You can kind of get out here and just like plug away. And so that's really the first recommendation I would say, is like, I kind of digress there, but like live by your calendar and then find a place that you can be productive when you're really working, right? And but have like a goal, right? Have a vision. I know we're going to talk about books, but a big book that was important to me was Traction, and we'll get into it more later. But like having Traction talks, visionary integrator. Between the calendar and partners, like I wouldn't be able to do what I do if I didn't have the people. All of my businesses except the realtor business have a partner involved, whether it's a 50-50 or it's, a 30%, 70% split, depending on how the partnership is structured. But I have an integrator. I'm a visionary by heart, right? If anybody's read Traction, and like I have an integrator because as much as I love systems and I love scaling and I love building this stuff, like it's not my strength. And so I always rely on a lot of other people. But I think sometimes investors get to the point like where they're relying on people, but they're kind of doing it at the expense of that person. If you're relying on someone a lot, like cut them into the deal, right? And they'll help you scale. Bring them in as a partner, or just bring them in, as an equity split or something. To give them a little bit of ownership and value in the company, and then you'll increase your profits and your I think your business like tenfold if you find the right people.
Guys, that for all the listeners, that's right there. That's that golden highlight we were talking about, because we've had a number of guests, and we've had really two different types. Some people that like to be solopreneurs. And it's really interesting to kind of hear their business models and how they scale independently. And they're like mostly outsourcing through VAs and things like that. But I really, really love that. Personally, all my businesses have partners as well. And I don't want to speak for Sam, but I think we align very well that way. Obviously, we have a partnership, not only in the podcast and
you can speak for me, bro. You can speak.
Yeah, any type of audio visual stuff. Also, we have 2 other businesses together as well, and then I know that he has a couple other partners. Same with myself. So I personally kind of thrive with being able to have partners that are better at things that I lack, and then we kind of yin and yang the situation to where I kind of like your example with Chip. Chip sounds like a cool guy. Yeah, he sounds like, you said, a yoga master and a fisherman. That's cool. Quite eclectic, making it happen. So So yeah, no, I love to hear that, and I hope all the listeners kind of rewind that a couple times, because that's just big time. Especially, I like how you ended that. You can really scale your business tenfold. So that's awesome.
Hey, one thing I wanted to highlight, kind of too, that I kind of, picked up on that I think is important is that, you're an investor friendly agent. How important do you think it is to have someone, who's experienced, with real estate investing, helping you find your deals if investing is your goal? Because I know personally, what I tell a lot of people is that there's two types of realtors out there. There's a large group that will help you find a home. And then there's a bunch that'll help you find there's a few that'll help you find great investments, but 90% I feel like are just home shoppers at best. And I think maybe there's 10% that can help investors. What do you think about that, Caleb?
No, I agree. I think that you've got to have someone that at least understands the numbers, right? If they're not actively investing now, like they need to have understood those numbers and potentially invested at least at one point in their life, because you can really get into something where somebody like has said that, oh, this is going to be a great investment. And then when you look at it, it's not, right? I get it a lot with our short-term rental company. We'll run analysis for realtors like, oh, this is such a cute little house. It's going to do so well on Airbnb. And it's like, it's not even a 10% property. And you need to be around a 20% property to be profitable. Mm-hmm. And so I think that you definitely have to have someone that at least understands the numbers, has probably done some investing themselves. But there's also the other side of that is you don't want to find the guy that is like actively investing to the point to where he may potentially be your competition. And I don't mean that in like a negative way, but I have had, deals where I've thrown, a question about, oh, this is probably a potential property we might take down. And then, conveniently it got taken down by, somebody else that was involved with that realtor or, that realtor themselves.
Funny story. And I actually just heard this yesterday, Sam. I don't think I heard you, but one of the people we were looking at a build, the property that we had under contract that we ended up canceling at the table, the realtor called me yesterday and said that so-and-so homes, we're looking to they put an offer under contract like 2 days after ours, and then they bailed on it as well. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and that kind of goes.
It was one of the people we were going to partner on build with.
Yeah. We'll talk about it offline, but
wow, that's dirty.
I was like, wow, really? That's pretty interesting. But I thought it was cool that the realtor, she called me back on it.
Right.
But that's kind of funny. Like to Caleb's point, not saying that they're really not competition to us. It was just we were trying to build our business with someone who already had a really good baseline, and we were building out a couple different things. The lot we thought was going to be able to be split, and then when it came down to it, the soil didn't match on the other half where we wanted to split it. So it was still a pretty decent price for the size lot it was. So we thought about doing it just as a single, but then we were like, nah. And then I just thought it was funny. So that kind of reminded me, as you said that, Caleb, that sometimes you're dealing with people, it's across the entire industry, not necessarily just a realtor, but yeah, it can be contractors or different types of things like that too. So
for sure.
I just thought that was funny because he's mentioning it and Liz like just replaying. She left me a voicemail and I was like, oh, no way.
Yeah, I've had a conversation this morning with a contractor that I met with when I was in town a couple weeks ago, back in my hometown where we're flipping, and he's an investor himself. And I was just completely upfront with him. I said, "Hey, man, we want to hire you, but like, I don't want you stealing my deals." And he's like,
"Totally."
He's like, it's and he's like, the long term relationship is worth more to him. And I kind of knew that like from the conversation I had, but I just wanted to be very, very clear with him. Like, I'm going to send you into properties that I may not have under contract already. And I don't want you putting them under contract. But if we're wholesaling stuff, that's another like an opportunity that we kind of do. If we get a contractor in there and we're going to wholesale it, we'll sell it to that contractor before we ever dispo it. If we don't want to take it down ourselves, because a lot of them can, because they can cover them. They can cover the the labor. Really, all they're looking at is materials, and
Right.
their spreads are going to be way less. And so, if I can, if I take it like a 10% haircut on it, like I don't even have to deal with trying to dispo it. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
No, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, and then and kind of back onto the in the your career things. I was wanting to see which one do you think is the one you believe you want to be when you retire from the military. Which one is the one you're going to put in like the most time in between the management, the flipping, or the real estate, or is it going to be kind of an even split?
No, it won't be even, but when you're talking actually time in the business, it'll be the realtor business because you almost have to put the most
Yeah.
time into that because you are the face of that business, right? We haven't really talked much about the short-term rental kind of co-hosting business that we have yet, but the fix and flip stuff, I just brought, kind of practicing what I preach, right? When I went to that, I went to a business conference a couple of days ago, last week, and it was a 2-day conference, and we deep dove into a couple of our businesses, and I realized that like I've got a business partner in the fix and flip stuff that he's not from that area, but he's a good buddy of mine from down here, and he wanted to get into wholesaling. I was already kind of doing some fix and flip stuff and not really wholesaling as much, but like a lot of BRRRR deals. We're doing, like BRRRR and out properties in Indiana. But I brought him into the mix, and he's a huge integrator. And so he's kind of helping me like maximize the business, right, and kind of optimize everything with that. And in doing so, I was like, I'm going to bring him into it with an equity split in it. And so doing that, we went to the business deep dive, the 2-day takeoff with Steve Rosenberg, and kind of dove into it. And so now he's going to probably take over most of the operations. I'm still like the private money guy. I'm the fundraiser for that business. And then will be mostly dispo when we're wholesaling, but he's going to take over most acquisitions. And honestly, we're probably buying 10 times more than we'll probably ever need to wholesale, just because we're really only looking at properties that we plan to take down anyways. So that one is going to be pretty much optimized there with John handling a majority of the operations. And then the short-term rental co-hosting company. So that was actually created recently as well, like November of last year. And that one's with another business partner in the same circle of people as John, and his name's Ben. And him and his wife, Bess, were co-hosting like 2 or 3 properties and owned a couple of their own. And then they brought me in originally as like a consultant to help them scale that business. And I decided that once I started getting involved, I realized how much work it was going to be to do so. And I was the guy that was bringing in the clients. I was kind of the face. I just kind of negotiated a 33% ownership in the company. And so they own 66% or 67%. I own 33, but we're 50% profit split between the husband and wife and myself, right? So anything we're bringing in that we do is 50% in expenses and profits. But that business came out of a necessity of I was selling short-term rentals to clients down here in the Florida Panhandle, and they couldn't find good management. And so I was like, well, if I can't refer them out to somebody that I trust, I might as well just build it. And, and then I know I can trust it because I've got my hands in it. And so that was where we kind of started talking. Ben and I went to a meetup or like Tony Robinson and Sarah Robinson's Alpha Host Academy. We joined another training mastermind and realized that we could scale pretty quickly. And we went from like my 2 properties and I think his 4 or 5, and we're at like, so we at 28 right now with, we should be at like 32 by the end of summer, 32 to 33, because we've got a few in the pipeline that we're onboarding.
Oh, I thought you were taking Sam's already.
Yeah, those 2. We've got 5 right now we've got 2 that we're physically onboarding at the moment. We've got 3 more that we're planning on bringing on in the next month. And then I've got conversations with 2 or 3 more owners once we get off here. Honestly, most of that comes from a referral base from agents that I trust and that trust me to handle their properties. And we're kind of going from Panama City Beach to Gulf Shores, Alabama. So we kind of know the area. We live down here. We're able to to manage, and we've got teams built in all of those locations, all the way down the Panhandle and into Alabama. So that right now is like where I'm dumping most of my time. to build that up, because that's where we're hiring the most. That's where we're, scaling the most, the quickest, right? The fix and flip stuff. Even before I brought John in, I was probably working 10 hours a week on it, because it would just be find the property, run the numbers, contractors already running it, property managers already looked at it, and I can just let it start, right? I can pull the funds in. I've got 5 or 6 private money guys that we just cycle through, and I use their money, and then that one was kind of halfway on autopilot anyways. So bringing John in is with the intent to scale that, significantly. And then all the time right now, though, like I said, is going into building out all the systems for the co-hosting company. So if you guys want to like dive into that stuff, we can really dive into like lessons learned over the last 6 months of scaling a co-hosting company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I think that'd be great. Because if you want to give us the last 6 months, and that kind of then goes into kind of like my next question of what the next 12 months will look like. But yeah, why don't you give us kind of the tips you have for that?
Prior to us hopping into that, just for listeners' sake, Caleb, can you break down your 3 businesses and the name of your businesses, and kind of like the best way to get a hold of you, or how you're, accessing new clients, or you're doing all that, internally?
Yeah. So I'm on 5 Pillars Realty team, but we started a small team underneath 5 Pillars, which is Shelby Osborne and Mike Glassby. They're good friends of mine out of North Carolina, under the EXP model, right?
Okay.
They are just a community of investor agents, military guys. But we started a team. Our team down here is called the Be More Group, and the reason we call it the Be More Group is because everybody within the real estate team down here is something other than a realtor. Like we said, we got Chip that owns a fishing charter business and is a yoga instructor. We've got 2 or 3 guys that are still active duty military. We've got, some people that are still working, W-2s and other positions, and a lot of interesting stories. And so that was kind of our premise of like, we're more than just realtors. So we're here to help you in any way we can. Some of us are real active in the community, et cetera. So that's the Be More Group. My realtor number is 850-407-7652. That's how anybody can get a hold of me. If you have any questions, just shoot me a text message, or you can find me on Instagram at Drake_OH, Draco. That's a kind of a play on the aircraft I flew was the U-28 Draco, and it's like a mix of my last name. So it was kind of nerdy, but it was fun.
That's awesome.
But you can, and then our fix and flip company is 5 Pillars Holdings, so it's right off the same brand. And then the short-term rental company, actually, we're in the middle of a rebrand on, because it was called B&B Vacation Rentals, which is Bess and Ben, because they're the married couple that were running it. And I'm like, hey, like, well, what about me, right? So then we're like, BBC, and then we're like, no, not BBC. That doesn't work for us.
Yeah. You don't want anyone searching BBC to find you.
But, so we're in the process of trying to figure out what we're actually gonna call it again, and excited to work that. But it kind of came I was fine with the brand, B&B, but we had all of our business stuff was structured in Alabama, where Ben and Bess lived. And when we started doing more business over here in Florida, we were moving the company to Florida. And apparently somebody with the like B&B something in their name caused a bunch of problems in the state of Florida. And so they won't let us use the name because it's too close to a name under investigation. And so we were like, now what, right? And so then we were like, well, you know what? And I don't know all the ins and outs of it, because the attorney that was helping us, transfer everything, he was like, just come up with something new. He didn't. No reason to fight it. We're a new enough company that all of our clients are still going to stay. But so we're trying to figure that out. So if anybody has any good ideas, shoot me a name. But BBC's not it. So, it could be fun. We could have a lot of fun.
It would be funny. Yeah, for sure. That's hilarious. Well, that's pretty sweet. I'm actually curious, before we do a deep dive into systems. Sam and I have been looking a lot into real estate in Lower Alabama, in Baldwin County and Mobile counties. Obviously, you're doing business there, especially in Southern Baldwin County, I guess, Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, which is just an extension of Perdido Key, really. But kind of tell us your investment strategy there. obviously your business partners, as you just mentioned, live there. Is that kind of the only reason you've integrated into that space? Or
Well, we just manage properties there.
Mhm.
It's really no different than managing, right across the state line in Florida, right? Alabama's pretty liberal with their laws, similar to Florida, maybe a little bit even more, more lax. I guess liberal's not the term, but lax, lax on their laws, right? And so we didn't really have to like dive into two different, state structures or anything. So we just kind of or like Ben and Bess had already started managing a couple properties and owned one in Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, and so then we just started moving east more into
Gotcha.
Florida, where because I own a property that's a short term rental in Pensacola, and then I own one in Navarre, and then I own two in Navarre, but we sold one, and then we own, like we said, all the short term or the long term stuff up in Indiana. But that was, I think that you're going to see, like answering your question, I think you're going to see an increase in property value in that area, but Gulf Shores and Orange Beach is it's kind of tapping, in my opinion. Like that, there's not much you can build, right? Like the water's everywhere,
Mhm.
because you've got the Northern Bay area and the river, and then you've got obviously the Gulf, and so there's not a ton of land. I think that you're going to have to start seeing stuff move into Perdido, and that's why when we were talking earlier, I think that you're going to see that area grow over the next 10 years just out of necessity. Once
Totally.
they get some good commercial real estate in Perdido, they get some like more restaurants, more things
Basic
to do.
infrastructure. Yeah, there's not too
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
It's like 10 condos and a bunch of houses and a golf course, right? If you can,
Right.
if you can start to capitalize on some of that land that's available there and start building some stuff for people to do, I don't think it'll ever be destined, but people are going to have to start moving that way, and honestly, you're going to see probably clientele like wanting to stay there because it's going to be a little bit cheaper than Gulf Shores and Orange Beach as well.
Yeah.
Same white sand.
Mhm. Well, sweet. Yeah, now I'm really excited. I know Sam's super excited. He probably has his notebook out, but yeah, however you want to start diving into for the listeners on some systems and processes on what's kind of driven your success. We're all open ears. I know you can start wherever you want, any business. I'm sure a lot of them kind of have some bleed over in between, but yeah, I'm super stoked just to hear your story of like things that maybe you've learned along the way and things that you've done, maybe like attending these conferences to help you build these systems faster without maybe having any type of pitfalls that you potentially could have had, things like that. So
Yeah, and I'll talk about like when I spent a bunch of money on something that I ended up not using for 2 months later, right? Like those kinds of things where you're like, oh, this is a great idea as a visionary, and then you look at it and you're like, that wasn't a very good idea at all.
yeah.
But no, so I think as far as systems go in any business, really, but like especially when you're trying to do more than one thing or you're running a W-2, the first thing, like we said, is the calendar. The second thing is going to be who, and then your third thing is going to be how, right? And so and the how and the who can they can mix, right, or kind of overlap, obviously, but when you have the calendar, like figuring out the times that work for you and then basing everything around that, right? I don't my Calendly or Calendly, whatever it is, when for clients for real estate, as a realtor, like it doesn't say that I can talk to them at noon. It says I can talk to them after 3 when I know that I'm going to be available after my flying day is over, right? So I'm taking that in, but at noon when I have time at lunch, if I'm not flying, I'm making phone calls. I'm texting, doing everything I can. Every time I'm not doing something for the military, I'm finding time during the day where I'm not scrolling Instagram or Facebook as much, and I'm actually like, making those connections that I need to make during the day during business hours, versus just like just sitting around. Um, that's kind of the first thing, is maximizing your time, and I think using a Google Calendar and really like time blocking, even during the day that that like you're going to be at your W-2. Like everybody's got some time in their W-2, whether it's like you pretend like you smoke and go out and take a smoke break, but then you actually are just out there texting to clients and contractors or whatever.
Yeah, I
I
like
mean,
that.
honestly, right? Like I hope my commander never listens to this, but
Yeah.
um, like there is free time almost in any job, unless you're like a factory worker and you're on a line and you can't
Mhm.
take your phone out because you're running some kind of a system. Like there's free time in everybody's day. It's just like take a month and write down the time that you have. Like, okay, these are the times that I'm really working, and then look at like all the free time you have.
Yep.
Especially like I live 45 minutes away from the military base that I'm at. That 45 minutes is either me listening to a podcast or me on the phone with clients. I plan a lot of my client intake calls for the short term rental stuff. I plan those on my drives home because it's kind of a scripted conversation. Telling what we can provide. I don't have to do a lot of writing during that because I already kind of have their information and I already know their property because I've got an intake form that they fill out most of the time. And so I kind of already have that info, so I can look at that and then I can make those phone calls. And then when I get home, I'm not, hopefully not on the phone for hours at end, and I can actually either build a business or spend time with family.
That's awesome.
Let's see.
I
think,
think
and then
up like another little golden nugget, little golden highlight. Calendly and utilizing a calendar. Like I love Calendly, especially the way that you're using it properly. Some people just have Calendly to have Calendly and link it to their Google Calendar, but like time blocking, knowing that you're available after 3 and only allowing clients to talk to you and schedule times at that time. I think it's kind of for a free tool. I mean, I know you can pay for it and upgrade, but for the majority, I think that's one of the biggest hacks. And like for 21st century, like scale, like to scale your business, especially like securing sales. I think it's something that every person should just download and have integrated into their business that doesn't cost anything, but I think that's another little nugget I think that you dropped there. But I can tell you use it so consistently that it's just like part of your day. But I think a lot of the listeners, like if you guys haven't done that, and we don't have no plug for Calendly, I just think it's a really great tool. One big plug is we're going to thank Clean Eats for sponsoring this video and allowing us to hop on here. But yeah, I do think
coming out soon. Our turkey burn-in Cuban flatbread and our new
there it is.
wrap. So definitely want to come see Clean Eats.
Yeah. So do you have any other types of like integrations or tools that maybe have helped hack your way into a little more success?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's the 21st century, right? So there's tons of software. So I started talking to a buddy of mine at one point, Charlie Cameron, if you guys are friends with him or know him in the local area down here. But Charlie's a big automation nerd, and I'm in a mastermind with him, the 18 Alpha Investing Mastermind, and we sat down and talked about ways, because he's an active duty officer as well, and he's running a more successful real estate team than I am. And I was like, how are you doing it? Right. And so he uses a lot of automations from like Zapier and then I'm using Airtable and integrating that with Zapier for a lot of their stuff. So I run anywhere from like 2,500 to 5,000 automations a month. And whether that's like just an automated text message or an automated folder, like being built after like one condition is met in one company, this condition happens. Those types of things, that's all through automations through Zapier. It's Zapier. And you can integrate different software decks with it. And that's been a huge success for me, or a huge catalyst to my success in a lot of what I do, and being able to take my hands out of everything is using automations and using those types of those systems, right? Big things like we use Airtable. Airtable is kind of a blank slate, and you build on it. It's similar to like an Excel, but there's a lot of automations built in, and you can do different workspaces. I have one for each of my businesses, and I kind of live in Airtable. With tracking things, everything from finance metrics to to leads to clients, etc. And that I actually took that and automated connections with my actual real estate like CRM, right? So things going in Airtable, it's automatically updated into KV Core. I don't have to touch any of that. And KV Core is a CRM, if people don't know. But I don't have to do anything after that first time. And honestly, most of the time, I'm not putting any of that in because I have a virtual assistant that handles 99% of my admin. That's going to be another like hack that we'll talk about. But finding the systems that work for you and then building those systems out while you're still kind of, I had to do it out of necessity, but do it before you have completely scaled your business to where now it's a pain point. Just build it early and then use it and scale with it, right? Instead of like I did, 100%, to be full transparency, is like I did everything out of necessity because it was all pain points, because I didn't know how to do it, or I didn't know it was available to me when I first started. And I just kept scaling. I'm a yes guy. Like if you tell me I can make money doing something, I'm going to say yes. That's how I got involved with, short-term rentals. That's how I got involved with, fix and flip stuff. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Like we'll partner, we'll do it. And then I realized like there's a lot more work in things than you think, especially when you're trying to build a successful business and not a hobby. If you want to make real estate a hobby, then like, sure, buy 2 to 3 properties, manage them, do whatever you've got to do. But like, if you want to scale and you want to make it a business, take it seriously from the beginning, and use all the tools to your advantage.
Now, I love some of those things. I love automation. I love integrating things. And I'm sure it took you a while. You said out of necessity, but kind of finding your specific. There's so many different types of software platforms that are out right now. Is there a reason you went with Airtable over some other ones? Did you have someone recommend it, or is that just kind of shopping around? Because I think that's something good for listeners too. If they're starting off and they're taking your advice right now, which would be let's start on the front end instead of allowing it to be a pain point. How would they be able to decide and kind of cipher through all of those things?
Yeah, I think you've got to take, and this is something that my business coach, Steve Rosenberg's taught me, is you got to take where your business is at, and you've got to write an org chart, and you've got to write up the systems that you're using, and then you've got to take to where you want your business to be, and then you've got to take and build out that org chart, build out those systems, just on paper, right? I need these things. These are going to be the pain points of where I'm going to be when I get to that. Just thinking about it, not necessarily, you're not going to know 100% because you're not there, but taking that information and saying, these are probably the things that I'm going to need. I'm not going to be able to have 500 conversations with sellers, to scale this wholesale business or to scale this realtor business. I'm not going to be able to go to every seller's house and grab their survey when I've got 15 listings. Totally. So I've got to create a system that they can get that survey to me digitally and put it into a folder so that my team can process it. And that's a lot of it. All, like I said, come from a lot of necessity and pain. But if you can take your business where it's at and where you want it to be, and then look at that, and then start thinking about the software that can take the load off of you. And then there's so much research out there, right? But don't just take the software deck at face value. Like, get in and ask people, in the communities, right? Find a mastermind that works for you, if or just a small group of people that are like-minded, and bounce ideas off of each other, because I guarantee you there's somebody out there that's tried it and either was successful or tried it and failed.
No, I love that. Because there are just so many choices and so many options. But something that I think is critical here that you mentioned is you have a virtual assistant, because once you start taking a deep dive, guys, into some of these automations, the time that it takes to create your proper customer journey and what you want to do it and layer it for it to work best for your business can take days, but that time, if you were to compress that over the lifespan of your business, is just like a fraction. And you want to kind of speak to that, like how critical it is to kind of put forward these systems into a proper, like, I think you'd mentioned you put everything in folders so that your assistants can move forward, like kind of understanding where your business needs to be and the time spent and how valuable that time spent is for a clean customer journey following with these automation tools.
Well, I want to add into Will's question too on how'd you find and hire your VA? Like where did you find that person at as well?
Okay. Yeah. So I did kind of glaze over that, and I apologize. So
no worries.
We have 3 virtual assistants right now, and we're looking to hire 3 more throughout the companies. What I have seen recently was that I have my personal admin, which we'll talk about how I hired her in a second, but her name's Ivy, and Ivy is, I joke with my wife that if like Ivy left me, it would be second to my wife leaving me. Like as long as Ivy's always second. But because Ivy does so much for me. I mean, Ivy, like my virtual assistant, does everything from I'll text her and say, hey, can you schedule me a hair appointment, like a haircut, right? Like I need to get my haircut. Can you schedule it? And she knows who to call, and yeah, hey, I put it on your calendar, because she has my calendar. She manages it for me. She manages my calendar. She manages 75% of our emails. She leaves it unread if she doesn't know the answer to it. And then she works with our accountants to get all of the stuff done for our fix and flips, everything. She pays all my invoices. I haven't paid a bill for the business in 6 months, because she's just,
Wow.
create the checklist, create the system, hire, train, and then implement. And that's really, like, if you can go with that cycle, if you can, like I said, create the system, hire someone to handle that system for you, and then implement that over, the time frame that it takes, you can take 75%, 80% of the workload off of you. And we've done that with all three businesses, essentially. But I hired my VA through a company called Hire Train VA. And I'm enough, like, I trust them enough to really, like, plug them, right. I am an affiliate for those guys, because I don't recommend businesses, and I don't recommend software that I haven't used, right. Like, so I would say that, Hire Train VA is a great resource to hire. They're not cheap by any means. It's like $2,000 for them to find you a VA. But you can either, use a company like that, or you can use onlinejobs.ph is another one. The VAs that they're hiring are Filipino based, or Philippines based, Filipinos, and we've had really good success with hiring within that company. I've started using onlinejobs.ph, and I've built out my own hiring system, just because I can't pay $2,000 every time I want to hire someone. Because if we're looking at 4 to 5 VAs for the companies, then I'm not going to spend the 10,000 when I can build out something that I can scale. Again, going back to the word scale, right? To build that out. And so I sat down with my business coach, and he's really big on virtual assistants, and we talked about the hiring process, and all of that hiring process comes back, on our end, it comes back to personality. And so we give our VAs a DISC profile assessment prior to ever interviewing them, because there's certain profiles, there's certain personalities that are going to work best in certain businesses and certain jobs. And we want to know that going into the conversation. And so if you can figure out that system, before you figure out their personality before you even get on the interviews, you've saved yourself time, right? Because online jobs, you can have up to 200 applicants on their lowest tier, and I don't want to go through 200 applicants. So I send an automated email, they reply, we send out an email that says, here's a DISC assessment, and then we put those assessments based on their personality into folders. Then we hire based on the personality.
I love that. I love that. And for the listeners, can you kind of explain what a DISC assessment is and why that's so beneficial to have in that process?
So I'd say, we use DISC because it's what we know. I also like Enneagram, but they're going to ask questions based on different situations. Like, do you consider yourself a friendly person? Do you consider yourself a motivated person, whatever. And then they take that and they put it into an algorithm, and then it kind of spits out the type of person you are. Are you dominant? Are you an influencer? Are you a supporter? Are you compliant? And those personalities are going to be like, I'm a high D, right? I'm not going to be able to work well with another dominant personality in a business, just because you're constantly butting heads, because the dominant personality is the one that wants to be in charge. You don't want an admin assistant that's a dominant personality, because they're not really going to be the type of person that's going to do things. Like, I would be the worst assistant in the world, because, like, if you tell me to send an email, I'm like, I'm not sending your email. Like, that's your job, right? Like, that's not. I wouldn't be that person, right? It's funny that I'm in the military, because my wife all the time is like, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, well, but if you can take that, like we said, that DISC profile or Enneagram, whatever one works for you, Myers-Briggs. There's multiple different personality tests that are built on within the psychology community. I think that if you can find the one that makes sense for you and hire based on that, just do the research, then you'll get better employees, and you'll get better VAs, because you understand how they think and how you can interact with them.
Awesome. No, that's great. That's great. You got some more hacks that you wanna blurb out? Not creating more competition, but more people to work with.
Yeah, no. I would say for like the realtor side, um, the admin on the realtor side it's a huge time suck. Everything from setting up the MLS listings or searches for your buyers to like getting in the MLS and doing your listings. Where you need to be as a realtor, you need to be in front of people, whether that's with your marketing, or whether that's in person, whether that's at meetups, whether that's doing education, whether that's on the phone. You need to be in the face of people, and you can't do that when you're sitting at a computer plugging away, right? So take the things that are easily hireable, and within that, create some automations as well. So an example I have is for listings. It was always a pain to pull all the documents from the seller. The HOA documents. You got to track down surveys in the state of Florida. You're required to have a survey to close on anything that's has a loan on it. And then other things like termite reports, WDO, elevation certificates, all of that stuff that the seller gets, but then I'm driving over there to pick it up. Where when they can just take a picture of it with their phone, everybody has an iPhone. You can scan it on your iPhone and put it into a folder, right? So now my automation for this is as soon as I go and I get a contract accepted for a listing, I mark it as an active listing in my Airtable. It sends out an email, and that email has a link to our listing questionnaire sheet. So now the buyer goes in, fills out the listing questionnaire with things that they already know. How big's your house? When did you buy it? How old's the roof? All the things that are going to come up when I'm filling out the MLS search. Then once that's done, it meets another phase of that, and it sends them another email, and that email has a video of me thanking them for doing the listing stuff, and then gives them 4 folders to put all their documents in. Hey, put your HOA docs here, put your survey here, this and that. And then when all that's done, it sends them another email, right? Thanks them for doing that. And then they can now they see me, and it's a video, and it's not even really me. It's a HeyGen avatar. So you just I recorded an avatar, and then I typed in what I wanted it to say, and so then it just says it. It's kind of weird, but if you knew me, you would know that it was probably not me entirely, but like it's easily scalable using that. And so we did that. Yeah, and then so now I have everything I need for this listing, and the client thinks that I'm sending them personalized videos. And now my admin, my virtual assistant Ivy, she's already done the MLS listing up to the point of me going in and checking it, because once that goes live once I go active on that on Airtable with that listing, it also sends out an email to my transaction coordinator that says, hey, we're going to have another listing going live here soon. And then it sends out an email with a checklist to my virtual assistant who says, order the photos, contact whoever, this and that. And so then it goes through that list, and then now she already has it. She marks it off and mark it in Airtable that it's complete. And I can go in once a day and see where everything is as far as like the next listing. And I can access that from my phone. I don't have to, necessarily bother her and say, hey, where are you at on the listing for such and such? It's like, it's already there.
I love it.
That's awesome. It sounds like you have a great system, set up to kind of, keep everything, going. What's the next 12 months in real estate look like for you, like in all those ventures?
Yeah. Again, a lot of the things that are going to happen over the next 12 months are going to be out of necessity. I think we're moving out of the EXP model to a local brokerage here in town. We've been kind of negotiating an opportunity with Levin Rinke locally, and they're kind of a higher price point brokerage, and so we're wanting to kind of move up into a little bit of a higher market. Like I said, I live on the water. I can pull waterfront listings. I understand waterfront, so I want to start moving up as I want to get out of the $160,000 houses and into the 1.6, right? That's where I want to be. I won't be there, this year, but I think the realtor business, the realtor team has gotten smaller. We've gotten more niche, and we're going to move to a local place that they do your marketing. They have a full marketing team. That's a huge pain point for me, is like building out a marketing model. I started building it out, and I realized that like my personality, I have the disc test, like marketing is not my strength. So I wanted to like find somewhere that would be my strength, or like I didn't need it to be a strength because somebody else had already done it.
Right.
And they're going to handle that. The fix and flip stuff, John's going to take over most of the acquisitions, and I'm just going to kind of take the other half of it. So we'll be able to scale that. We're looking to probably do 5 to 10 flips this year. We're 2 flips in right now. We've got another one that we're negotiating. And so it's really just building out a contractor list. We've got one contractor that we relied on, and I kind of realized that like that's a linchpin in that business. And so now we're going back to the drawing table, finding 2 other contractors to work with so we can scale that to like, 5 to 10 flips a year. And I know that's like a big spread, but the goal is 5 this year, and then next year is like 7 to 10 with acquiring 40 doors. So got around 20 right now.
Sweet.
We're trying to buy two houses a month. Last month we only did 1, and then this month I've got 1 under contract that so we're kind of like 1.6 a month is the number that I need to meet by the end of the year to be able to get to that 40 doors. And so realistically we'll probably be at like 32 at the pace that we're going. But if I can get to 40 doors at $300 in cash flow a door, then I'm able to that's that 12K, right?
Well, grand.
So
from the beginning. That's really cool. So I am curious. It also sounds like you kind of have a mix of a 4th business in there with wholesaling and acquisitions and dispositions in a mix with your fix and flip. Are you kind of like adding that as a supplemental layer to the business, and then kind of keeping what you want, and then things that were still, good contracts, able to give those? I know you mentioned it a little bit earlier. You kind of give those over to a couple of the contractors that you're walking the houses with.
Or we've got a buyer's list too. We'll dispo as a realtor. I guess like down here, we're doing some stuff in the wholesaling in the Florida market. I have that list just inherently built with the people that are always asking for investment properties. Flips down here with the the network that I built. So that list just kind of happened organically. The list in Indiana, mostly what we're doing in Indiana is just dispoing something that we don't want, or areas that like there's certain areas in my hometown in Terre Haute that my property manager doesn't want to manage, and rightfully so. There's some rougher areas, but there's a lot of money in those areas as far as like wholesale opportunities. And so if it's not something that we want or it doesn't meet our buy box, I'm not just going to let it go. I'll lock it up and wholesale it if I need to. Or even I've got.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say it's like I've got enough friends there, and I got enough connections there that somebody will know somebody that wants it. And even if I have to JV the deal to not to do a lot of work on it, like I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's really cool, because a lot of times what you hear is the easiest way. If you don't have a lot of money, start in real estate, begin a wholesaling business. But it's almost like it, like you said, it happened organically through what you're already doing. So they kind of I guess it files into a couple different, like the fix and flip, but then also just your realty business as well. And you didn't really have
I've wholesaled deals to like my buyers that I've listed on the back end.
Yeah, cool. No, I love to hear that, because that's a lot different than if you're listening to podcasts or some guests that we've had, they always suggest, if you don't have any money, start with wholesaling. But it's cool that you kind of built it out at a different angle, and then utilized all of the information and all the people, all the leads, and you kind of regurgitated those to still make more money, which is pretty cool. instead of letting people.
I think everything I've done has been vertically integrated in some way or another, whether that was on purpose or just, by happenstance. Honestly, a lot of what I've done has just been by happenstance. And it's just like, then I realized like, oh, this is an opportunity. Like, why don't I run with it? Why don't I try to build it out? I selfishly started the co-hosting short-term rental stuff because I needed somewhere to refer my buyers to. And then I saw that like, oh, that is probably the most scalable business, because there's endless properties down here, and there's horrible property managers, right? So like, if you can become the guy that people trust, then you just have to keep scaling that. And we're at a point now where like in that business, we've we were going to bring on these properties that I was talking about that we've already got in the funnel, but then we're going to like take a slope or like a short pause, and just build out more of the systems, because we're starting to see pain points that we shouldn't see. And it's just because we're scaling too quickly. But the problem, like a year ago, Caleb would have said, nah, push through it. Right. But now it's like, if I can't provide you a good product because I'm scaling too fast, then I would rather keep the people that I already have and make them happy for, 2 months, and make sure that we're doing everything the right way, so that I can build the process to then go out and have 50 more properties, and it will never matter because that process is already built. I won't see those pain points that I'm seeing at the same moment.
Kind of like seeing the forest before the tree, right? It's like being able to see the big picture, instead of what's right in front of you. I love that, because that just kind of shows, one, your business acumen, and two, it's like you're able to cater to the people that are building the foundation of the business, and instead of trailing ahead to where maybe it could crumble, which I don't know, there's lots of stories where that happens. You're able to recognize that, and you're going to reassess, which I think is something really important for the listeners to like. You can scale, but you have to be self-aware of what's happening in the businesses, too, because if you're not, then things can go wrong quickly.
Yeah, and if it becomes a pain point, like for you personally, or like even for your family, right? Like, there are times where my wife's like, dude, you got to get off the phone. Like, you got to help with the baby or this or that. Like, if you have a pain point there, like just address it at that point, and just, have a little bit of humility. And like, you can't necessarily, maybe not even be able to fix it yourself, but find the person that can help you fix it. And then just like, make sure, like, partnerships are where I'm all about partnerships. We could have an entire podcast on partnerships. And how that they can help, and I'm fine coming back and doing that sometimes, guys. Like that, partnerships are what made it.
We definitely want you back for another episode. We definitely know we could go a lot longer on the partnerships.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, we're probably cutting it close on the length here, but yeah, definitely. I'm really enjoyed this podcast. It's fun.
Yeah, man, we really enjoyed it as well. I guess that kind of will tee up, like, what's lifetime goal, or the end goal look like for you?
Well, I retired from the military in 3.5 years. Like I said, I've got a 7-week-old baby, and I've got a 15-year-old son. So the 15-year-old, originally, if you'd asked me this, 2 years ago, I would have said, once the 15-year-old's in college, like, I'm going to go, travel the world. Right. That's not happening now. But I think, after the 3.5 years, I retired from the military. The goal is to be like a $25 million a year by volume real estate agent locally, which I think is easily scalable. It'll take work, but I think I can do it, just based on kind of my trajectory and my goals. And then the short-term rental business, like, we're wanting to get to around 100 properties there, and I only really want to work in that business like 10 hours a week, so that I can continue to, big picture, I want to be able to spend more time with my new son, and then have the opportunity, like, depending on where my older son goes to college, like, just to hop in the car, or, hop on a plane, depending on where he's at, and just go hang out for the week,
Cool.
Go see him. Before I met my wife, the joke was I was just going to get my PhD, because I've got my master's degree, and I was going to get a PhD wherever my son went to college, and just like live in the basement. It's like, I'll just like, live in your basement and, go to school and pay for yours. And he's like, not a chance, Dad. I'm like, well, when you start paying for college, you would be like, oh, I wish my dad would live in my basement.
Yeah. He's like, oh, man, I should be house hacking with my dad right now.
But yeah, so when he goes to college, the goal is to buy him a place that he can house hack and he can have whenever he retires, or not retires, but whenever he graduates from college, and kind of have his first investment. And then, we're looking, my 10-year goal is to buy a place overseas, and probably, potentially move to a place where we can 3x our lifestyle. I can, we can raise our son. I want to teach my son Spanish. I want to learn Spanish. My 5-year goal is Spanish, to learn and be able to be fluent in Spanish, so that I can move somewhere in the next 10 years.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
I love it.
I know you already mentioned Traction. Is that in your top 3? What are your top 3 favorite books that you think helped you get where you are today?
I would say Traction is probably my number 1, mainly because, like, I was already doing a lot of it, but I didn't really know why. But the thing I like about Traction is that book breaks down like the visionary and the integrator, like the partnership and construct and success and how to do it successfully. But they also give you the tools, like the different, the different things in the EOS, the entrepreneurial operating system. They give you the different forms and everything to fill out to like deep dive into your business and to really kind of understand, the metrics within your business to be successful. And that's what I really appreciated about that book. I've read it twice now. I just go back like once a year and I try to refresh myself on it. Full disclosure, most of the time I listen to books on my way to work. I'm not a huge reader. I don't have a lot of time to do that. And then I would say my second is probably, this one's probably not a common one that a lot of the people know, but it's called Leadership is Overrated. And it's by Chris Medford and Kyle Bucket. It's a book about how they take leadership lessons learned in a SEAL team construct, in a special operations construct, which I understand very well, and they apply that to business. And I thought it was pretty cool especially for a lot of military entrepreneurs of like the things that you learn, and me being a special operations guy by trade and working a lot with the Navy SEALs, working a lot with Army Rangers, etc. Seeing the way that they build things to the kind of the premise of the book is if you as the business owner or the business leader, the manager, if you are incapacitated for any reason, your business can continue on without you. The same way that if the commander of a SEAL team gets shot in a battle, the team doesn't just leave. They don't drag their commander out of the building and say, "All right, guys, we're sorry, we're here." Right? They continue. Somebody picks up his position. The number 2 guy picks up his position, takes over, and takes command, and then they keep going. And that team can run without a leader. And so that's kind of the premise of that book. And it's a really good book. I think my third is,
and I'm intrigued. I think I'm gonna purchase it by the time we end this. This looks good.
Yeah, it's a good book. And then I would say my third is like, I have like a third and fourth together, but because you kind of have to read them at the same time or like right after each other. That'd be like Who Not How by Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan. That was a big book for me because, like I said, I'm real big on, empowering partnerships and the people around you to help you in your business, and like hiring out as much as I possibly can. I would rather hire out the $20 tasks so I can work the $200 tasks. And then on that same concept is Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. So those 2 books, if you are like struggling in your business to like figure out if you should hire, like if you're right on the fence, just read Buy Back Your Time and Who Not How, whatever order you want to read them in, and then you'll probably hire that week.
That's awesome. That's perfect. Awesome. Last question as we wrap up. What's some advice you'd give to someone who's starting today if they wanted to, do what you do? Outside of all of the knowledge that you dropped in this last hour.
Man, that's a tough one. I would say really take a look at you and what your strengths are, and then find the people around you to help you build up your weaknesses. Because honestly, you've got a lot of strengths. I don't know, I'm speaking to everybody, right? Like your strengths are going to be different than my strengths, but if you can find the people around you that are going to build up your weaknesses, then you can be, 100% person as a business owner versus, the 60% that you're able to do on your own.
Awesome. Well, man, I can't thank you enough for hopping on. This was awesome.
No, I agree. I appreciate you commenting on my post when I announced that we started this podcast and we're looking for people to interview. I mean, that just kind of speaks to the real estate community, how you put something out there, people want to help. And Caleb, man, we appreciate you, coming on here, both helping us out as some new podcasters, giving us a great interview, as well as all of our listeners on, how to be successful in real estate, man. I really can't express enough gratitude for you, reaching out to us.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I appreciate it. And I would say, I didn't plug you earlier, Sam, but like, honestly, when we talk about like buying back your time, I eat clean eats every week. And like, I didn't even know that you were, was a thing that you guys had, right? But we buy clean eats within our family because I don't want to spend 2 hours cooking. Like I can warm something up, and at lunch I can do that for my lunch as well. And like that's been a big, an integral part of like what we've been able to accomplish, because I'm taking those little things off your plate that are time sucks, and just, still trying to maintain a good health. But like, that's like, it's funny that when you told me that, that was a business that you were involved with, because I was like, oh, I totally eat those every day.
That's so
Dude,
that's so awesome.
Lance is my production guy. You need to clip that part because he also helps me with my Clean Eats ads. So we're gonna definitely clip that out of the podcast so we can reuse it on my Clean Eats pages, man. Appreciate the endorsement. I did not ask him for that. He gave that all on his own. Appreciate that, Caleb.
As we wrap
Yeah,
up,
go grab one
I
for
know
lunch.
yeah, I know you mentioned it earlier. Where can everyone find you if they wanted to get in touch with you? And then talk a little bit about also your meetup too for the local listeners.
Yeah, so for anybody local in Pensacola, we meet up the third Thursday of the month. It's called Pints and Properties, and it's at Doc's Hop Shop right downtown behind McGuire's. It's like a 6:30, 7 o'clock. We have a guest speaker every third Thursday of the month. So it's a nice networking event. If you want to reach out to me personally, you can find me on Instagram at Drake_OH. If you want to find our real estate webpage, it's bemoregroup.net. And my number is 850-407-7652.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, now, if you're looking for an investor-friendly agent here in the Emerald Coast, Caleb is your guy. So someone that has the knowledge to be able to discuss numbers. I can't express that enough. There's been multiple times I've told a realtor what I want for ROI, and the first 5 properties they send me are like nowhere close. Like it's like they don't understand what the ROI math is. And so you definitely want a realtor like Caleb that knows what ROI actually stands for, which for all the listeners that might be new, return on investment.
Yeah. Thanks again, man. Appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you at Pints and Properties, man.
We'll see you there.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.